I just want to say, man, like what you guys like whatever you want. It's up to you guys. I don't want anybody to feel crappy for liking what they like. Like what you like, man. Some people like this, they like that. But as a whole, what do Star Trek fans like? Like, what do people like as a whole? All of us added up, averaged out, and how did shows perform? Looking into all of that category, what do we have? And so I did some math on this, and I figured it out. And I listed my examples down below, but I tweeted this out. You go check out my Twitter if you want to see it. It shows you what I believe to be the most popular show is based on, there's really multiple categories of how I'm scoring this. So the first category is what is the fan score on Rotten Tomatoes and all across the board. And I found that Rotten Tomatoes was pretty close to just about every other review site. So, like IMDb's, other website reviews, whatever. Rotten Tomatoes was pretty close to the accurate score, right? So I took into consideration the critic score, but I don't really count the critics so much because they're paid off in certain ways by certain avenues and certain people, so it's hard to figure it out. There's not a lot of review bombing in Star Trek, really this way or that way. It's all pretty even for the most part, so the fan scores are pretty seriously dead on for the most part, I think. So fan scores are pretty much accurate for the most part, and the critic scores, they're a little tainted, right? So I did value the critic score, but I valued the fan score more. And I valued how many views the episodes got based on what we can tell search-wise. And I based the category on search on Google and search on YouTube. And did the shows make any of the top ratings out there in the world of streaming, which is the only way the show can trend anywhere is from the Nielsen streaming ratings or whatever, right? So which shows popped on those? And I think that early on, like Discovery did, the first season of Picard, the first episode, they did really well. So, I listed that on my graph here. So, but in the end, I came up with that season 3 of Picard was the top one. Now, looking back at it, number 9, Picard Season 2 is the worst. And that's the funny thing about this is Picard Season 2 is the worst received, right? It gets the worst score from the fans, Picard Season 2, right? So Picard Season 2 gets the worst score from fans of any show, any Star Trek show, modern age. Picard Season 1 doesn't do so well either, but, Discovery does worse in their later seasons. But number 4 is Star Trek Discovery Season 1. Their debut shows, for 1 and 2, I think, but mostly 1, was the most viewed Star Trek show of the modern age because it was the first Star Trek to relaunch and come back on the Paramount network, and it got viewed on TV as well. So that is the most viewed show, Star Trek Strange New World Season 1, Episode 1. And I think 2 did well as well. And then for number 2 highest viewed episode, it looks to be Picard Season 1, because that was the return of Picard and TNG era and all that stuff. So that was big and huge. So those are just sort of by design. So those are the 2 most viewed. But Picard Season 3, the first episode and the last 2 episodes are the most viewed after that. So 3, 4, and 5, beating out anything else. And, of course, Picard Season 3 as a whole beat Picard Season 2. It beat all the Discovery seasons as a whole. And it beat Strange New Worlds. We did those Google Analytics comparisons as well. And so for that reason, Picard Season 3, Star Trek Picard Season 3 seems to be mathematically the number 1 show of the modern era for Star Trek. Based on all these figures. Google search, YouTube search, and the 3rd and 4th highest viewed episodes of the modern era, and the fact that it got the top fan rating, and it was one of the highest critic ratings, and Picard Season 3 also ranked in the Nielsen streaming top 10, I think at least 2 times. We know it was twice, but they might have ranked a third or fourth time. I'm not sure, but I know at least 2 times. They made the top 10 of the Nielsen streaming. That's really an amazing feat there. So for that reason, and the fact that obviously a lot of people who said they were done with Star Trek, they hated Picard, they hated Discovery, they hated everything, they might have liked Strange New Worlds. There's a bit of divide there. So to me, the most popular Star Trek show of the modern era is Picard Season 3. And the second most popular Star Trek of the modern era ends up being, to me, Strange New Worlds. So, and Discovery falls flat in last place. And then, of course, it probably after that it would be Lower Decks, I would think, which is a fun cartoon. I don't mind Lower Decks because it's a cartoon. I don't really treat it like it's real Star Trek. It's just a side joke, which is fine. But yeah, those are the ranks, and that's why I came to that decision. And it is an opinion though, because we don't have hard facts. But I have really good evidence here. Like, this is very good evidence. If you look it up, it's not hard to do. And obviously, you can just, if you wanted to, you could just literally look at the fan scores. So the fans all say Picard Season 3 is the best modern Star Trek show. But not only do the fans say that on Rotten Tomatoes, but the rankings, the numbers, the awards, the Nielsen ratings, all that sort of stuff adds up in Picard's favor to kind of give it the most accolades of all the shows. I do think Strange New Worlds is crept up, and it's very close to that in a way. But again, not everybody's on board with Strange New Worlds. It's very close, though. I would say that if you were to give a percentage of the audience that's into something, I would say that only about 30 to 40% of Star Trek fans were into Discovery. But I would say that 70% of the Star Trek fans are into Strange New Worlds. And I would say that 85 to 90% of Star Trek fans were into Star Trek Picard Season 3. So those are guesses and numbers that I'm guessing with. But if I go around and I watch YouTubers who love Discovery, they seem to love Picard as well. There's only a few groups of people that don't like Picard Season 3. But there's a lot of groups that don't like Picard Season 1 and 2. And there's a lot of people that don't like Discovery, but then there's sort of like a small but big vocal audience that likes Discovery. Do you know what I'm saying? It doesn't mean that you're wrong if you like or hate or whatever any one of these shows. It just, to me, when you measure it, it says to me that 3 out of 10 Star Trek fans like Discovery. 7 out of 10 Star Trek fans seem to like Strange New Worlds, maybe 6 or 7 out of 10. But with Picard, it's definitely an 8 or 9 out of 10 Star Trek fans. But that's just what I've come across based on what I'm looking at. I can even go sample the YouTubers, like I said. I can pick 50 Star Trek YouTubers who watch all Star Trek and review all Star Trek, and I find that those percentages match up there. Do you know what I mean? There are some people that like all the Star Trek. Do you know what I mean? And some of those people seemingly like Picard the most, and some of them seem to like Strange New Worlds the most. But then there's a whole bunch of people that don't like Strange New Worlds, and they do like Picard Season 3, and they don't like the other Picards, and then there's a whole bunch of people that like all the Picards, but they don't like Discovery, but they like Strange New Worlds. Then there's a bunch of people that like Picard Season 3, but they don't like Strange New Worlds, don't like Discovery. Then there's a bunch of people that love Discovery, and they kind of like Strange New Worlds, and they don't really love Picard Season 3. So there's all these categories that people fitting into of this divided group of Star Trek fans. It's very interesting to me. Where do you lie, I wonder? I don't know. Let me know. But, yeah, one thing's for sure for me. Modern Star Trek makes all the original Star Trek, whether it's the original series or jumping ahead into the 80s and 90s, man, that stuff looks like masterpiece, like compared to modern Star Trek. Star Trek The Next Generation, Star Trek Voyager, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, even Star Trek Enterprise, they are like masterpieces. When I watch them and I compare it to whatever modern Star Trek is. It's very strange. But what do you guys think the best Star Trek is? And and you may be watching this and you may think the best Star Trek is Discovery Season 1. You may love Discovery Season 1 the best. So you don't have to, I know, I'm just saying as a whole, it seems like Trek fans feel this way. It's kind of like Strange New Worlds. Strange New Worlds is like pretty popular. Although I don't really like it anymore now, and I probably will never watch it again after the last episode. I can acknowledge at least that it seems like a little more than half or so of the whole Star Trek fandom seems to like it, if not half, right? And I think that 85% at least of the entire fandom loved Picard Season 3. So that to me tells me that Strange New Worlds is not as popular as Picard Season 3, but it is fairly popular. And it certainly has been more popular than Discovery as a whole. Anyway, I'm babbling, going in circles as usual. I'll get out of here. Leave a comment down below. Star Trek Late Night.